Aury.
Aury eats bugs.
Alright! I'm back! Hello! Welcome to Aury Eats Bugs! Hey, y'all. Sorry that I haven't been posting every week like I've wanted to. Don't get to do one of the old, excuse me, green check marks on my whiteboard this month for Aury Eats Bugs because I've been super busy. In fact, I'm actually in my work clothes right now because I have great lighting. Sorry, microphone. I'll be better, I promise. Been working a lot on a lot of things. Handymanning, and I've had some great auditions come in. Thank you very much. No bites though, but that's okay. But I'm back. So thanks for being so patient. All of you, a couple people out there, whatever. Gotta start somewhere, right? So yeah, there's a lot of things that I think about on the daily. And I think about myself as well, and you know, and talking to people that I've known for years, and some people that I just met, and some people. Did I finish my thought about that? I'm in my work clothes. Did I finish that? Nah, either way, I am. So excuse my dirty hands and my dirty self. I need to change out of this, which is what I want to talk about today. Can people change? Can people change? I mean, the obvious answer, pardon me, is yes, but can they? I guess it's, are people willing to, is the actual question. And just to go back to my original thought of, I've known people, you know, for my entire life, and I've known people for, you know, a couple years, and you know, at a couple days and everything like this. And some people don't change, you know, and there's nothing wrong with that. And maybe you don't need to change, but maybe you do. But can people change ultimately? I mean, some people are so set in their ways, right? Like old school people, man. Even some young people are just so stuck in their own lane that, and not that it's detrimental or something like that, but it kind of is sometimes. And people that, you know, maybe should change don't want to, or don't think that they have to, and maybe some people that, you know, think that they have to don't really need to. They're okay in their own skin, and not in their own skin, but kind of they're okay, but maybe they think that they're not okay, something like that. I don't know. This is the best part about a ramble. And maybe I don't mean change. Maybe I mean evolve. When we're all evolving, we're all supposed to be here evolving. That's one of my beliefs that we're here to do. You know, I am a prime example of somebody who has changed a million times, and that's probably because I am a Gemini. I know, I'm one of those people. Hey, I don't give a fuck. I love that shit. I love astrology. Probably gonna do a rant on astrology as well, because, you know, not that I necessarily believe in it, but I mean, like, you know, why not? The Earth is affected by the moon, and we're a part of the Earth and come from it, and like we are water, and that's the whole thing. I digress. But I have changed a million times, and I hope to continue to change and evolve and be a better person, because for a while there, I was not a very good person. You know, when I was a kid, I was just a maniac, and I, you know, used to scream and cry and all that stuff. Now, got to admit, I had really bad dreams and real bad nightmares, and you know, I would see shit in the dark for sure. I'm actually going to do an episode on sleep paralysis, because I still suffer from that, and it still fucking scares me. So stay tuned for that one. but you know, from that, I started drinking and smoking and all that fun stuff at a very, very, very young age that I will not elaborate on, but it was very young. And then I got out of that and I became a frickin' angel, you know? Well, kind of. I was still a mess, but. And then I got back into high school and, you know, I fell back into, you know, that rebellious kind of teenage life, but I went off the fucking walls, man. Off the fucking walls, dude. I was doing a ton of drugs. I was drinking so much. I barely went to school in grade 12. You know, crashed my parents' car with two of my buddies in it and like really stupid shit. Got fired from my job, a couple other things. Anyways, because of that catalyst, I started working construction. So that started my, let me just say that my first part of my life was, you know, sports orientated, and then it was, you know, party, and then the party continued into construction. And I'm so grateful for that because I learned a lot from construction, and it's, you know, pretty much what I'm doing now as well, just on my own accord. But you know, from like 16 to, you know, 25 was brutal. Just all I did was party. All I did was party and go to, you know, some adult establishments where a lot of girls that don't have a lot of clothes on are, and all that fun stuff, and put a lot of things into my body that are, you know, not the most ideal for health. But, you know, there was always this thing inside of me that I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? You know what I mean? And I still get that now, but I was like, I gotta fix it. I can't do this anymore. So, you know, I steadily got out of that. I ended up getting my own place in Burlington, Ontario, while I worked construction, and I was there for about 4 years. And then, you know, I always wanted to be an actor. Always. I was always an actor, you know. I just loved it. I used to fucking do little skits and shit and write things when I was in elementary school and try to get my friends over to film it, and would like have fight scenes and all this stuff. It was dope on my camcorder. But I changed again and I evolved, you know, and then from that, I, you know, like was thinking back in the past, and then in Burlington, I was like, hey, I need to do something with that as an actor. So luckily I came into some money, so thank you. Luckily for me, so there was an avenue that I took from a buddy of mine from my hometown, and he called me, was living in the Niagara region and was working in Toronto, and he called me and was like, if you're down, bud, I need a roommate, let's move to Toronto. So I was like, you know what, now is the perfect time. Packed up from Burlington, moved down the road to Toronto, and I'm like, I'm gonna pursue an acting career. And I have been in Toronto for over 10 years now. I think it's like 13, so that's another, you know, another change. But even through that, and I don't just mean the change like locations and vocations and career. I mean, like, I have morphed into somebody who I never even, like, I don't even recognize this person that I used to be. I'm still the same inside. Do you know what I mean? I try to be a good person. I wasn't for a very long time of my life. I mean, I was good, but I just did some fucking bad things. Stupid. But maybe that's my point, is like, maybe outside sources, you know, or whatever sort of things we're dealing with internally, deter us from being who we're supposed to be. And maybe I'm speaking of the change of how we're supposed to be, which is love and hope and, you know, a little bit of darkness, but like not over consuming darkness. But you have to be willing to be able to realize that we're here for a little bit of time, and try to make the most of it, and to try to, like, you know, be the best person you can be. And, you know, drinking and partying and fucking being just a degenerate is not what we're here to do. It was here for a beautiful lesson for me, and I think that's what we can all take away from that if we've ever been through that or are going through that. It's a beautiful lesson. It bodes well for me for my acting career as well, because, like, I can, you know, I've seen some shit, and I can then use that for maybe a performance in the future, which is amazing. But we can always learn from those things. And even honestly, even thinking about it right now, I I'm so grateful for all of that stuff, because it was a perspective builder, and we all need a little bit of perspective. And I come from a small town, and now I'm in the biggest city in Canada, and I think there's a lot of people, especially, and I'm not talking about like my specific hometown. I'm not. Dunnville is a wild place though. Shout out to Dodge, baby. You are so people can be so contained, and I think there's so many different little containers around the world where if you just go out and travel and see other people and speak to other people that aren't like you, and you're like, fuck man, maybe like there's something else out there, and like that might spark the change mechanism in your brain to want to explore more things inside of yourself, which is what we should all do. We shouldn't just be one thing in our lives. I just listened. I've heard him a couple times on Rogan, and then I did some research on this guy, Daryl Davis. This dude's an old school musician. He played with like B.B. King and Jerry Lewis and Chuck Berry. And he legitimately goes and has reformed people from the KKK. People like Grand Wizards or whatever will turn in their white robes for this black dude because they realize that, what they're doing is not good for humanity. Spreading hate is a thing that you need to do to change. You shouldn't do that. And there's a lot of people right now that are thinking that people are spreading hate, but they're not. That shit is fucking hateful. And I've met some people like that, and it is fucking wild. But you listen to these people. I just listened to Rogan today, and he was speaking to Jeff Schroeb, I think his name is. But this dude was the head of the like a neo-Nazi movement. The movement is what they called it. And he was speaking about how he met Daryl Davis, and he had heard of him and met him, and then they had this interview together. And before they went in, they were chatting, and he was talking to Daryl and was just like, the kind of cognitive dissonance, and he just was like, yo, I shouldn't be getting along with this guy. And he literally had a little burst and was like, no, I need to stick by my plan, essentially paraphrasing. But that little switch in his brain was it broke down the cognitive dissonance a little bit. He's just like, why am I supposed to hate this person, but I don't? What the fuck, right? And then that could start from there. And if a person that is the leader of this movement, of this neo-Nazi movement, can change, and he was deep. I'm gonna go like look into this guy a little bit more. I probably should have before I started this, but if he can change and evolve, then why can't any of us? We don't have to be set in your ways. Even if you tell yourself, no, I'm just set in my ways, this is who I am. That's great, but maybe you could be a better version of yourself. And the one thing I think is the catalyst to doing that, and I wish that more people would do this, especially, in the media, and I'm ragging on you guys again. The media, again, is admitting when you're wrong. There is nothing wrong with admitting you're wrong. I am one of the most stubborn people out here. I will fight you tooth and nail to prove that I am right. But I'm often wrong. And if I am wrong, I'll be like, fuck, I'm so sorry about that. I was very wrong. But my stubborn ass will always admit when I'm wrong. And I think that the world needs more of that. And it's almost as if people today, maybe just speaking from me being people from today, I think that the ideologies are so pounded in us, and for whatever reason, if we are not able to admit that we're wrong from that, then it will crush our entire existence because we are so laced in with it and like strapped in and like, oh, I think this way. maybe you should. Maybe you should. Maybe it will be better for everybody to, you know, change and evolve a little bit more. I know it was the best for me. For real, I sometimes sit by myself and just think about how far I've come, and not that I like to talk about myself or anything like that, but I think we should all be proud for growing and evolving and changing. And there's some people out there that maybe they don't need to change. Maybe they're, you know, they got it all figured out. And I don't want to say that I'm envious of those people, but you know what? I'm not envious of those people. I think that those people are beautiful, and I've met some in my life, and they have this light about them that is just confidence and kindness and love. And I think that is the bare bones of us being humans. And if we can all evolve to have that, the world will be a much better place. I think that was a long one. Yeah? Well, thanks for listening, everybody. And if you don't need to change, don't. But if you do it. Thanks for watching, everybody. I love you all so much. Mwah! Mwah!
That's my opinion!